Philippine markets will play catch-up as it reopens next Monday following the Undas holidays. For a preview on what to expect, I'm joined on the line by Jomar Lacson, the head of research at ATR Asset Management. Good to have you back on, Jomar. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning, Kathy.
So window dressing and net foreign buying lifted the Philippine stock market Wednesday to above 71.40. What are the prospects of continued foreign money flows when trading resumes Monday?
Well, our view, at least on the short to medium term, is still that the market still has the pressure on the market to continue to weaken is still there, despite the inflows of the foreign stock market, because we still have to contend with the inflation numbers coming up next week, and at the same time, we also have to factor in the weakness coming from the from the developed markets, particularly the U.S. I think that's still an issue for global markets, which we're currently sort of coupled with.
Yeah, in fact, the Asian markets, including the Philippines, will be reacting to the U.S. jobs data out tomorrow, Friday. What are you expecting, and how should investors be positioned?
Well, I think right now we have to maintain a certain level of cash, given that valuations are still getting more attractive. So at this point, just have to be positioned for that.
How much cash?
To take advantage of.
Are you really risk averse at this point?
I guess in terms of risk aversion, and you always have to be have some level of risk aversion, but in terms of cash, it kind of depends on the mandate that you would have. But in general, you should be above whatever your mandate should is pegged at.
Especially as the October inflation report is out on the 6th, and we've also got Q3 GDP out on the 8th. What are you tipping for both economic data?
Well, I would tend to agree with the general view that inflation would be already decelerating at the for last September, so for the October numbers. And as far as GDP is concerned, I think our view here is that the weakness of 6% that we saw in the second quarter is really mostly coming from the balance of trade segment. But if you look at the underlying, the domestic portion, it's very strong, and that's what we're looking at more as far as GDP is concerned. So, but despite assuming for a moment that inflation is still shows deceleration and there's a pickup in GDP, those could be the catalyst for some window dressing towards the latter part of the year for the index. But having said that, there are still some issues coming from the Federal Reserve. I think the central bank has already indicated that there will be a potential rate hike as well. So those are the issues that you have to contend with going into the last 2 months of the year.
The telco sector, Jomar, is hotting up with at least 10 potential bidders making that beeline for third telco play. What is your take on the bidders, and what impact is the pending bid having on the existing giants PLDT and Globe?
Well, obviously, if you're looking at the terms of reference that it has been issued by the NTC, it's meant to really improve the level of service. So the real winners here are really the consumers. But if you look at the incumbents, it is a bit negative, considering that the industry will become more fragmented with an additional player. But still, the expectations here is still a bit long term. The networks still have to be built, so there's still time for them to create value for at least for themselves, and maybe even for the consumers. If they continue to invest and entrench themselves, create those barriers for the incoming player. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to predict as well, because I'm pretty sure whoever is the third player will be keeping its strategy close to their hearts. So the way they're going to attack this market may be different from the way we normally think about, when we see PLDT and Globe. So, that, I think, once they start whoever wins and communicates their strategy, that's the time that we can really see, how this will all pan out.
And just very quickly, Jomar, what do you make of the reported news of Converge ICT Solutions moving to acquire publicly traded Vulcan to support Dennis Ui's bid?
Yeah, so I think that's a positive. At least we know already at least the identity of the players are starting to emerge, and given that at least from our perspective, feedback on the service Converge as a fixed line data provider is actually positive. So at least they're committed to service levels, high service levels. So that could be good. That could be a plus, at least again for the consumers. But let's see. They're partnering, I think, with Korea Telecom. So let's see how they'll fare with this bidding.
All right. Well, I wish you well on the long Undas weekend ahead. Do enjoy. Jomar Lacson, thank you so much for joining me. ATR Asset Management's Head of Research. And a lot going on.